Today we are witness to the dawn of a new communications era, brought upon us by satellites, lasers, fiber optics, microprocessors, and magnetic bubbles.
Hey, Jeff, you ready for some Canadian horror?
Is it going to be real gross?
It's going to be pretty gross.
Is it a David Cronenberg?
It's a Cronenberg.
All right, let's talk about David Cronenberg.
Hello, everyone. I am Jason Oliver.
I am Jeff Arbuckle.
This is another episode of Film Seizure, and this week we are talking about David Cronenberg's 1983, I believe.
82, 83, something like that. Yeah.
Videodrome. Videodrome. This was a first-time watch for Jeff.
Yes, it was.
Which is kind of exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I always had heard of it. I think, you know what's funny is this kind of comes from like the same time frame as Looker.
Looker. I don't know that I know that one.
Well, that's one that I have that I've seen when I was a kid. I probably shouldn't have seen as a kid.
Probably not.
And it was right around that same time. And it's there's some funkiness to it. Like there's like that kind of MK Ultra type stuff.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
like that ability to program somebody to do something for some ends. And so like I think this was always something that it's like, I don't know, it was just that time that it was concerned about video and about the expansion of TV and so forth. And, you know, it's a good
subliminal
thing.
Messaging.
Yeah, it's a real good thing that media has dialed it back in the last 35 years.
Yeah, I know. I mean, oh God. I mean, this movie, I think people really took it to heart and realized that overstimulation could be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we just totally stopped.
Yeah.
Proliferating, video
exactly.
and light and sound
and audio and everything. Yeah. So by the way, you can listen to our show on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on
you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter.
Long live the new flesh.
Yeah. It's so true. This movie is unbelievably prescient in some of the things it predicts. In 1983, with the sort of video boom that was happening, who would have thought that we'd be where we are now? Where some of the things in this movie that it's talking about, it's interesting because video is actually difficult to find in some ways. Like new and weird stuff is sort of something you have to search for or pirate, and nowadays it's pretty much anything and everything you could possibly want of every flavor, shape, and size is on the internet. There's
even
not a whole lot
real gross stuff.
There's not a whole lot of searching you have to do anymore to find really strange and bizarre things.
Like
right?
the Momo challenge.
You're right. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So it's this movie is still so goddamn timely, but also sort of quaint in its format, right?
Right. It's
But it feels like it's predicting the future, which is the cool thing about it. It's like you go back and watch it, it's like, oh my God, this is in 1983 and all of these things are happening, and it is absolutely predicting the state of mankind, in 40 years or 30 years or 40 years, but almost. Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that this is just kind of one of those things that, I think, at the time that this had come out, by the early 80s, there were 30 solid years of TV and, 30 solid years of it changing and society changing to how it viewed entertainment, what it thought was entertaining, what pushed boundaries, like you had to go 20 years before somebody could flush a toilet on TV. It's
right.
like that's
right.
how,
Yeah.
So then once that happened, the floodgates open, right? It's like at that point you're finding what the next thing you can push. Obviously, like some of the classic TV shows like I Love Lucy, it's like husbands and wives not even sleeping in the same bed, yet they have children.
Yeah. Right.
That seems fishy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, but then it gets to the point where sex is a conversation by the late 70s. You have characters like on what's the Schneider on One Day at a Time, who's like, all he wants is to get fucked, and it's like there's no problem talking about that.
Right.
Or Three's Company,
Yeah, Three's Company
where you have
yep.
like homosexual jokes
Yep.
and bosom buddies, where you're dressing like women to live in a building that's for some reason can only have women
in it. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But no, so it's like the progression. So like, what was the next? Well, actually seeing true sex and violence, like like they basically what they call it? What the old gypsy lady call this? That it was
The old gypsy lady.
well, that's what she reminded me of, right? She seemed like an old gypsy lady. No, she. Anyway, but basically, as she was describing it, it's like you don't want to get involved in this. This is
Right.
This is something that's will change society, whether you mean for it to or you're just meaning to make a buck off of it. This is something that you're.
Well, she called it dangerous because it has a philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely want to talk about later too.
There's so much to dig into on this movie.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to get into a diatribe of where we are as a people right now,
Right.
or political stuff, because like,
well, that's kind of what I love about this movie is it's in some ways a warning, but it's also very agnostic.
yes, yeah, it's not saying, oh, those stupid liberals or those stupid conservatives or whatever are doing this to people. No, this is just human. This is base human desire, kink.
Yeah. But there is almost like this puritanism versus hedonism in this movie that is very much on display.
Right. And there's so many people in between
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
again, it's the
They're fighting this war on these
the fringes.
extremes.
Yeah, on the fringes.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we've got stuff to dig into, but
So you showed me the Looker.
Looker,
That's
so-
interesting that's directed by Michael Crichton.
it's
because
Michael Crichton, and
this
it's a little bit earlier.
He's a guy who definitely delved into a lot of these themes of technology and reality.
Almost
and
every single thing he's ever written, directed, or been a part of has been in some way, shape, or form a reflection of society in a science fiction way.
he's definitely
Well, hell, even Jurassic Park
Yeah.
is in some way a reflection of what we want to do to control something to make money off of it.
Right.
He's
he's
the movie pulls that back a lot.
I think in
But
some ways he
but-
was kind of like our generation, or even I guess maybe the generation before us, Philip K. Dick in a lot of ways. Like he delved in a lot of the same themes.
Yeah.
With technology and science that Dick did.
Right.
Cronenberg. Cronenberg.
Albert Finney also, who just recently passed away.
Cronenberg is he kind of mixes the physical reality with I don't know. It's
Well, he delves a little bit more into the H.P. Lovecraft side of things. He's a little bit more of horror, whereas Crichton's more of the sci-fi guy.
Yeah, agreed. It definitely a little more cosmic.
An expansion of self and of your perception of reality.
Yeah, there's sort of an existentialism at work. Yeah,
so much so he even doesn't he make a movie that's existence,
which I also wanted to mention in this episode at some point, and I can go ahead and mention now. I feel like Existenz is sort of a sequel to Videodrome. It deals a lot with it's sort of expanding.
Oh, it's the cyber side of things.
It's expanding
right?
the themes. Yeah. It's sort of like cyber, the virtual reality.
Yeah.
It definitely questions like, is what I'm experiencing real?
Yeah.
What is real and what isn't? There's a blurring of the lines there between perception and reality.
Yeah. We can talk about that without even getting into VR, because we can talk about that from a social media standpoint. Again, I don't want to get into a diatribe, but this is something I think about on a constant basis, because it seems like the moment you log into Facebook, you're just getting punched with lefts and rights.
Yeah.
Constantly with people's opinions.
Yep.
And either you participate in a echo chamber, you say nothing, and just grin and bear it,
Right.
and
Grit your
keep
teeth.
scrolling.
Yep.
Or you oppose, and then you're the biggest asshole ever in the world ever.
Yeah.
And it's the funny thing is that almost always the absolute easiest thing to do is to grin and bear it. Say nothing, move on. Whatever they got to say, they got to get that off their chest, move on. When I do it, I hope somebody just says the same thing about when I need to. The hardest and most difficult thing to do is to oppose, and yet people have this dire need to create this fake battle only to get you pissed. For what good? For what end? That doesn't change anything. It only just means that now I want to go and track this motherfucker down and punch him in the fucking face until all his teeth fall out. That doesn't solve any of my problems.
Right.
And it doesn't solve what I'm angry about. It only perpetuates that.
Well,
so it creates this whole new reality that I'm supposedly angry about, which I don't have to be angry about. I'm fucking angry now.
Well, there's your diatribe.
I have put away the soapbox.
Well, for me, I think that, I mean, there's a lot of little hints of how this movie predicts the future. And I don't think Cronenberg necessarily had, he didn't necessarily have social media in mind, I don't think. But
No.
But I like the little drops, like Professor Brian Oblivion at one point says, I'm
going to change my name
in the
to
new
that.
world or something like that, we'll all have special names.
We'll all
you
have
know?
avatars.
Yeah,
And,
which is
basically your avatars or your handles.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
Your Twitter handle is
holy
like your special name, right?
Holy shit. I mean, the whole movie Hackers is about what's your handle.
Right. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
We're never going to watch that movie.
That movie is awesome.
No, we're never going to watch
It's
that movie. I hate
so
that fucking
amazing.
movie. It's stupid.
That movie is perfect 90s cheese. I love it.
There you go. There you go, Dad. I know you're listening. There's where we disagree on the other side of things. This motherfucker over here likes something that I don't.
It's so good bad.
It's terrible bad.
But yeah, there is this. It's noise. It's just constant stimulation and overstimulation, which is what this movie
It's all about the overstimulation.
is about. Yeah.
I mean, we live in a time. Now, this is. I mean, back then they thought they lived at this time. 35 years later, imagine now at a time where anything we want to entertain us, to get our rocks off, to make us feel something at all.
Yep.
We can just fucking dial it. This is the horror version of the world of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah.
We can just dial up what we want to feel, and it's right there for us. If I want to be angry about something I hear on the news, there are 4 dozen people I can think of right off the top of my head on YouTube that can help me feel the way I want to feel about that.
Yeah.
If I want to look and peer into the other side of that story, there's another 5 or 6 dozen people, all with punchable faces, that I could dial up if I want to feel that way.
Yeah.
The fuck do I need a girlfriend for, man? It's like I can have my own relationship however I want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we live now, and
it's just getting crazier and crazier.
We're all fragmenting more and more.
We're fragmenting. We're isolating ourselves more, to is the irony, I think, of it all.
Right. We're more connected than ever, but we leave the house more than ever.
Right.
I mean, it's like, why do I need to go see any of our friends when I can just text them?
We're connecting, and I put that in air quotes in like a new way. I mean, it's not even. We don't really have relationships with people in a physical way. Well, we do, but we're moving, I think, away from
We're
that.
moving away from that.
I mean,
We're-
people
we're-
are starting to work from home. People,
Yep.
a lot of people. They're
Yeah,
not,
well,
I
I
mean,
know a whole lot of
I
people
mean,
who
they're-
are.
yeah, they don't go into an office anymore.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, and it's, I mean, for some people, like, I'm not going to say that I really like being around a lot of people. I really don't.
Right.
I really, really don't. But I will also say that at least 3 times during a work week, because I work from home, I just have to go someplace. It's like, I'll go to Kroger because I can go get some 2 liters, or I can go get me a fucking bag of peanuts.
But
Or-
but Jeff Bezos eventually is just going to deliver that shit to your door, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you could right now. You could order everything that you grocery
If
shop.
he personally delivered something to my door, then I'd do it.
He's got a punchy face too.
my greatest.
But
my-
I think we are kind of delving into diatribe.
Right, we
Yeah.
are. But no, the point is though, is like this movie is telling us that when you crave more, somebody is willing to give it to you.
Yeah, and there's no
And they're not
there's
gonna-
no end either.
Right. And the thing is that the people willing to give you that next thing aren't necessarily doing it like the James Woods character. He's a program manager for a tiny station, right?
Right.
A tiny Ontario station.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. You know, I can buy it.
Channel
You know.
is channel 83.
Channel 83,
Civic-
cable number 12.
Civic 12 or Civic TV. Sorry.
Civic
yes.
TV, channel 83, cable 12.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, that's confusing.
Right.
But what I love about that too is it gives you the sense of this expansion.
they're growing.
Right.
Right.
Like it's not just a channel, it's like a channel on a cable channel.
Yeah.
Right?
So listen to us on iTunes.
So there's all these permutations that are already happening.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But so anyway, so you know, like he's just looking. He doesn't have any philosophy behind this. In fact, somebody even tells him, "You don't have a philosophy."
Yeah.
So you don't understand why this thing could be dangerous. He just wants viewers.
Right.
So
He's
there
looking,
are
he's looking
groups-
for the next thing to hook people. He's
Right,
He's
he's-
basically a pusher.
right, and
Yeah.
but he's not trying to hurt anybody.
No.
He's just thinking,
What do people want to
what
see?
do people want to see, and how can we give it to them before anybody else does?
Right.
And now on the other side of things, the people who are creating Videodrome do apparently have a philosophy, although I'm a little fuzzy on what their ideology is.
It's very right wing. We'll talk about it.
Okay. Huh.
We'll
All
talk
right.
about it.
Okay. But anyway, so like, you know, so from James Woods' perspective, he's just a capitalist, really.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey man, this is my job. It's just like me in my daily job doing something where it's like, hey, it's just my job to tell you got to pay your bill or whatever. You know, it's like, even though I'm not the guy collecting it, I got to tell you got to do it. Don't hate me. Don't shoot the messenger.
Right.
You know, it's like,
I'm just
that's
giving you
my
what you
job.
want.
Well, I'm giving somebody what they want,
Right.
but it's just my job.
Yes.
You know.
Which, by the way, I've always thought that he had the best job in the world.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that.
So I mean,
This is fantastic. People bringing them stuff to
yes.
sell them.
If I were in the workforce in 1983, I would want this job. He essentially is searching for video content to air on his channel. He's a content director, right? Which there's still people who do that, but it's not nearly as fun anymore.
No, it's something different now, and I've got a story to
now,
combine
back
with that.
then you had people had to produce shit and then sell it,
Yeah.
right? And find sellers. It's like find distribution.
You first had to find somebody to produce that pilot, and then you had to sell the pilot,
right.
and then it all like feeds back onto itself again, and then because you got to pay back the person who paid for your pilot,
Right. And
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
times when
crazy.
something is produced, it's already got a distribution deal.
Right.
Right. But this is like really kind of low rent stuff. Like they're like, oh man, we were just able to get enough money to make this thing. We're just hoping to sell it. So they go to these little low rent channels, cable channels that James Woods is a partner in, and tries to sell him their show. And I mean, it would be the best to watch all that crazy shit.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? Okay. Now I know public access is another thing, right? But imagine if you are, you're doing things kind of like public access. Imagine if you were working for Adult Swim,
Yeah.
for example, and people are just, I mean, and then all of a sudden, Tim and Eric come in.
Yeah.
It's like, we got something for you. Your face would fucking melt.
It's like, it's like UHF. It's like
exactly. That's
be,
another one we
that
would
would
to
be
talk
so
about.
much fun. Nowadays, it's like anybody who has any kind of content can just put it on the internet. Now, sure.
So you can listen to us on SoundCloud, on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really, and now it's a battle to get seen, whereas before it was kind of like, does anybody want to watch this?
Right.
Right. But now it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe nobody wants to listen to us. Right. But we're still out there, and maybe someone finds us and likes us, and that's great.
Let's put it this way. I feel like we get enough people who go back and find stuff that we get it. We get different types of visibility.
But it's almost like this opposite problem, right?
Right. Because now it's like we don't have to sell this to anybody.
Right.
You know, it's out there. There are plenty of outlet. You know, it's just that's the problem. We're oversaturated.
Right. Yeah.
But that's beside the point. What I was going to say is that once I've heard some stories about like once the money train started to really pull into a lot of stations for YouTube people. One of the things that websites and various other places, or just people who wanted to get into content creation, or not necessarily want to get into content creation, but wanted to get into content production, would start going around to people who had smaller, but still a fairly solid following on YouTube.
Smart.
And basically try to pull them into some sort of a conglomerate where there would be like, well, we're going to pull all of these content creators under one heading, and then we're going to sell it all at once. But then what that ended up doing, though, was really kind of taking advantage.
Wasn't that kind of Channel 101's model back in the day?
Kind of, but they were still, I still look at them almost like an Adult Swim type of play, where it was like, there's still a legitimate channel there, or like a legitimate, like you have to try out and get, you know, that's the way I kind of always look at it.
So they weren't necessarily co-opting someone's viewers to push a different type of content. Is that what you're kind of mentioning here?
Right. So yeah, basically like I could be some guy, like basically I would be the guys who worked for like the Fire Festival people, right?
Right.
Who see an opportunity.
A lot of punchy faces there.
Yeah, but they see an opportunity to make money off of somebody else's work.
Yeah.
Basically is what they're doing. And they're going to say, look, we've got the best way to promote everything. We'll put all the money into your promotion, but you've got to create this stuff for us, and then we'll give you the dividends from which if you just did it yourself, you get all of the dividends. You know, so I've heard stories where it's like, or they either are trying to take the personalities from something and try to put them into something of their creation, and it's just stupid. It's just dumb. You know, and like you don't understand what you're buying. It's another example of that is when the Mystery Science Theater 3000 movie was made. And this is totally off topic now. Universal says you can do any of our movies, and we'll do that. So they said, we want to do This Island Earth. Great. Although people like them, it doesn't matter. We're doing it. You said any movie. Write the jokes. Then Universal's like, we don't like these jokes. And it's like, then you don't understand what you bought.
Right.
You know, and it's like, but they were taking advantage of, you know, they were taking the advantage of the ultimate place that Mystery Science Theater could go, which was to a movie theater, instead of just TV, a cable station, and before that a very, very local Twin Cities station. They were taking advantage of them, and not really caring what they purchased, but pretending like they understood what they were buying. But yeah, I mean, so basically that was just 15 years after this movie was made. So it's like you already see where things started to change, where it's like TV isn't really the future. It's going to be whatever you want to dial up on your computer box, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
So at this point, what happens from here will be interesting, because right now the internet's the Wild West. And someday, Videodrome. I can only assume.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe we
Momo challenge.
probably already all have tumors, Videodrome tumors.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
And you know that there's a lot. What I really like about this movie is how cautionary it is, yet also kind of like accepting of this new reality.
Yep.
Right? It's the new long live the new flesh, you know?
Yep.
So it's kind of like, you know, this is all inevitable. And you have where I was talking about the right wing sort of side, the people who created Videodrome. So essentially what you have is you have the Brian Oblivion camp and you have the Videodrome camp, which comes out of the weirdly the eyeglass company Spectacular Optical.
Well, Spectacular Optical, though, the guy says they're a conglomerate.
Yeah.
Really, because
Right.
it's like we can either give away glasses to third world kids who
And
need to
create
see
guidance missile programs for NATO. Right.
to basically blow up the
Right.
third world kids. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So their charity work is something. They make their money off of NATO, but the charity work is their tax write-off.
Right. Well, what they have done is they worked with Brian Oblivion to create this signal that would essentially create these hallucinations and a tumor in people's brains that would have them essentially question their reality and go insane. Is kind of the
The idea was that the tumor would become a new appendage essentially to the brain.
But here's where the split happened. So Brian Oblivion believes that television is the new reality, and that this tumor would actually form into a new organ that would actually allow you to be able to perceive this new reality in different and exciting ways.
Kind of like VR.
Right, kind of. So Brian
now
Oblivion
you
saw
can participate.
Videodrome as a mechanism of evolution, of inevitable human evolution.
Okay.
But Spectacular Optical wants to use it as a weapon. They weaponized it to kill all the scum of the earth, basically, who are in the kind of people who watch Channel 83. Who are stimulated by sex and violence.
The deplorables.
The weak. Right?
Yeah.
So Brian Oblivion is trying to he's got this whole weird program of showing TV to the derelicts and the homeless
to make them feel connected.
To make them feel more connected to reality, whereas Spectacular Optical wants to basically kill all those people. They want to use Videodrome to wipe them out because they're saying that North America is weak. And
the rest of the world is getting tougher.
And North America needs to toughen up. So it's almost like this man-made, weaponized version of their form of natural selection.
Okay,
that's their goal.
All right, I understood what was being said. I don't think I had put all the pieces together.
There is one thing in this movie that makes no goddamn sense, though. Now,
the belly vagina.
All that shit kind of makes sense. Actually, there's two things that don't make sense.
The belly vagina.
Yeah, kind of.
I have one of those now. I'm a living, breathing Teddy Ruxpin now from watching the Videodrome.
Well,
I've seen some weird shit online, dude.
I don't understand what happens when the pirate, the video pirate, tries to give him another tape, and the belly vagina chews up his arm, and then he explodes. How did that happen?
Okay, here's what I think.
Because in my mind, it's a hallucination. Like when they give a video to James Woods, they're not really physically putting it in him, but that's how he perceives it through his hallucination. They're probably just making him watch something. So when that happens that way, it sort of blurs that line and confuses me.
Okay, so here's what I think.
It's like Manchurian Candidate.
Kind of. Well, yeah, that's really what this movie is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Or the very same idea, at least.
Yeah.
So here's the.
So I don't understand that, and I don't understand why Spectacular Optical has him kill the other owners of Channel 83. Because their whole goal is to get Videodrome on Channel 83.
Right, but if anybody finds out at any point in time what's going on, Channel 83.
But how the fuck is he going to get it on Channel 83 after you just straight up murdered these guys in the office? He's a wanted man after that.
Well, maybe it's the idea of clearing the way so that they can take over.
Maybe they can take over.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
buy,
kind
I'll
of where
buy
I was
that.
going.
I'll
with
buy that.
That's what I thought, because I thought the same thing.
I'll
was
buy
like,
that.
Okay, well, if he's got to kill them, first of all, if he kills them very publicly, which he does.
Yeah.
So
They could swoop into the rescue, save the channel, buy it, and then air their shit.
There it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Basically say, okay, you're all fired.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
So
it's a very messy way to do it, but works.
But it
and they don't have any connection to him that anybody could find out, so it's kind of perfect.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So the whole thing with the belly vagina becoming a bomb maker.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's kind of what I think ends up happening. So Videodrome messes up James Woods' head, which might actually very well be a very real thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Anybody seen Deborah Harry in a while? I don't know. By the way, we're going to talk about Deborah Harry here before we get too much further here. But anyway, so
yes.
So you talked about the two camps, right?
Yep.
This is where things get maybe a little meta-religious.
Okay.
Where Brian Oblivion,
he's got a straight up cult, man.
He does.
Yeah.
But he may be.
But there's like no members, which is funny.
It's just his daughter.
It's just his daughter, yeah.
Right. But she is able to recruit James Woods, because I think what ends up happening was whatever she does to him, something from Brian Oblivion in his files and files of beta tapes has fixed or changed, like pushed another evolution into James Woods.
I think she has a non-weaponized version.
Right, which may have an activation in the brain tumor to where he can now do things that he wouldn't have been able to do before.
Okay.
That's where I kind of was thinking. It's like, oh, he is turning into the new flesh, like literally.
Well,
turning into the new
that
flesh.
is the end of the movie, right? Is the total transformation? Yeah,
right. Because he needs to rid himself of the old flesh to totally become the new flesh, which it seems as though the Deborah Harry character has also achieved.
That.
Now the question is that what was she? Was she a plant by the bad Videodrome people or the good Videodrome people?
It seems like the bad, but I think that she was also co-opted by the Oblivion camp.
Okay.
Because at the end, she's
the one that's like, I can show you how to live forever now, basically, because she figured it out.
And that was what Brian Oblivion has basically achieved.
Yes.
He was trying to achieve that not organically, I guess organically, by proliferating his philosophy on videotapes.
Right.
So he would live on through video, which he felt was a more experiential reality anyway.
Which is funny, because you could say that's what celebrity is.
Well, exactly right. I mean, it's all this shit. All of our fucking maybe hundreds of episodes of Film Seizure will live on far longer than us, whether anybody watches them or listens to them or not.
Someday there will be those really advanced AI robots in the future. They'll unearth, like,
oh my god, that'd be
and they'll be like meet, which will just translate to these are a couple of a-holes.
Everything they learn, everything they learned from the 21st century will be from our fucking podcast. A couple of a-holes will take on a totally new meaning.
Yeah.
It's like it would be like a term of reverence.
It would be like the greeting. Good evening, a-hole.
A-holes.
What's a douchebag?
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Anyway. So Deborah Harry, lead singer of Blondie.
Man. So
if you thought she was hot in the 70s,
oh my god,
early 80s, turns out she's still pretty hot.
She's really hot in this.
She's
so
exceptionally sexual, which only just tweaks the right.
She's an interesting character too, because
she's the personification of too much.
Well, yeah. She also is basically like a walking danger sign, because she has taken it upon herself to go on his talk show and talk about the dangers of overstimulation, because she herself has become a victim of it.
Right.
So she's almost like the drug addict, to like a scared straight kind of shit, right? Like, don't become me.
Right.
Which is fascinating.
Which then you would always have somebody else who is either going to say, is like, hey, you want to party? Or you'll have another person who'd be like, why should we trust you? You were a washed out druggie,
right,
or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you seem to be doing fine.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But that's interesting to me. And that's the only time I think in the context of this movie that where she actually is present physically, because.
Oh, you think the rest of the time she's.
Yeah.
So James Woods is not having sex with her. He's just jerking it real hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I
What is
yeah.
he poking that needle through then?
Because he's already seen Videodrome the first time they have a date.
Because then he's like, hey, watch this.
Right. So I think she had already gone on Videodrome. Unless maybe when he does show it to her, that's when she learns about it. But I don't think so. I think that she's already.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I think that's open to interpretation, which is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because while on their first date and they're doing it, because she's like, hey, you want to try some stuff?
Yes.
yes, I would.
1,000 times yes, Debbie Harry.
What would you like to try? I'll do it. But anyway, because he has his first hallucination too, which is he's in that room with all the blood and the grate. And by the way, so the Videodrome stuff is always some sort of torture or something. Yeah. Some sadomasochist or torture, just straight up political torture.
Yeah. And I guess James Woods makes the comment that nobody ever comes back. So there is definitely this sense that it's snuff film too. Yeah.
Well, he makes that comment when he thinks that it's just a program with no character or no story.
Right.
That there's no returning characters.
Which kind of cracks me up that he's that naive, that he thinks that this is not real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
you're pirating this channel out of Indonesia. You know,
I heard the indignation in your voice there, sir.
I'm just saying, like you're picking up some weird shit, dude, and this probably is not on the level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe, I don't know, but maybe he has seen everything, seemingly, and he can't possibly. Well, he does mention that later. He's like, well, why would you do it for real? It's like it's cheaper and safer to just fake it.
Right. Why would you actually kill a guy?
He's basically saying it doesn't make any business sense to do this for real.
But sometimes things happen for non-business reasons.
Whoa, yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Future AI tech robots, we didn't do this for business reasons.
And it's interesting that it's then explained by Spectacular Optical, the guy, their figurehead guy, that they use specifically sex and violence because they found that it opens up the receptors in the brain and spine that make you more susceptible to the Videodrome signal. So there's definitely a message in that as well.
Right. Well, that's that's probably biology. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like violence and sex has different does different things to people, right? Like for some people who are particularly sheltered, they recoil. Some people like us, we have seen a lot of gory shit.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of sexy shit. You know.
A lot of sexy shit.
And sometimes we see some gory, sexy shit.
Like this movie?
Like this movie. Hate to bring it up again, but the very end of Amazon Hotbox, some sexy gory shit's going on, man. But anyway, no, I mean, but that's but it triggers something in everybody.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody who doesn't get frightened or turned on at some point in their And
they use Debbie Harry as that sort of hallucinatory guide, if you will, through the sexiness. They use sex to get to James Woods.
But also she's into some things that are like cutting and stuff
Right.
that also have a violent nature
But
to
it's
her.
but all of this is sort of perking James Woods' attention. He's like
perking James's wood.
His perking his wood, yeah, because he's a guy who, again, who's seen it all.
Right, he feels like
who's probably in some ways. Well, they say it on the channels. There's a sexual malaise, right? That this overexposure can create.
He has seen so much. He is so desensitized to it that while Brian Oblivion is talking on the TV show,
so
you
good.
hear him hitting on Deborah Harry.
Right.
Like, he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, man. You're wearing a red dress. I'm hot for it. It's like, let's do it. And then it's like, and I think you're right. I'm buying into your idea that that's the only time that she's a real character.
That's what I think.
Because she's like, I'm not cool with this.
But then she becomes like the hallucinatory pawn that both factions use against him.
Right, because because like she's like
she's the playing card,
right,
and the Manchurian Candidate,
right? Because she right out like is like, no, I'm not going out. You are a what you call him, a hostile or what?
Wait, what?
She called him something on the TV show.
Oh yeah,
a bother or something. Something.
Yeah, you're certainly
basically quit, dude. I'm
a
not
malice.
into it.
Maybe you're certainly a malice to me, or something.
Or
like
yeah,
that.
something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the next time you see her, she is giving. Well, although she is giving, she may be real at the radio station.
That could be true. Yeah.
And then he tries to go out with her again. You don't see it, but she declines again.
Yeah.
Or whatever, because when he waves to her, she kind of gives a look like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy's showing up here now.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, her radio station is Cram.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
C-Ram.
Yeah.
Cram.
Because then later...
Because, she's a radio therapist, has a show called Emotional Rescue. So it's...
Right. Which is a Rolling Stones song, and that cracks me up.
Yeah, but it's weird because she's got, like, a lot of issues, basically, but she feels that those issues allow her this insight into other people's problems.
That is really, 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 really important in this, because as we talk about the fracturing of people, and people starting to join up with echo chambers, you're only finding solace in groups of people that you can share your misery with, right?
Yeah.
To really help one another, you have to understand your own misery better. You can't have somebody else. You can have somebody else help you find what you understand about your own misery or your own issues or your own whatever. But at some point in time, you have to turn into yourself and say, I understand this, and I understand how I can combat this. And then you can kind of help those other people. But if you haven't done that, just telling somebody else, you're not helping that person.
And she doesn't seem interested in helping herself.
No.
And
maybe helping herself comes from helping other people.
But also, it also depends on how you interpret her character and when her character is real and not.
Well, sure.
Because when you see her indulging in her in her hedonism and stimulation and some kinky sex stuff, basically, that could be just a projection of what James Woods wants.
Well, he's seeing the red dress from the first time he met her,
right?
Wanting her to be provocative.
She recognizes on the show that she's overstimulated, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she's a full-blown hedonist.
Right. I mean, I can say that I'm overstimulated,
right,
about a lot of things.
Right.
That doesn't mean, like, I'm overstimulated with different movies or different music or whatever. That doesn't mean that I like a particular thing.
Yeah.
Or that doesn't mean that I want to see that movie or listen to that song or whatever.
But it's interesting that you can read that character two different ways.
Yeah.
You can read her as a hypocrite, or you can read her as actually who she says she is. But
it could also be.
But then only see her in those hypersexual states as basically Videodrome. Like she's being used as Videodrome to manipulate James Woods at that point.
Well, it could also depend. It also depends on where you kind of fall in the spectrum of where you have Oblivion on one side and you have Videodrome on the other. Where do you fall in the spectrum? Because then that may determine where you feel she becomes hallucinatory.
That's very true.
Because if you kind of say, well, some of what Videodrome is doing may not be all that bad, then you probably view her as a hypocrite.
Right.
If you are on the other side, then you say, well, she understands her issue and understands how to help people steer away from that issue. Because again, the information that she's providing on that radio show, while it's tough and while it's meant to strengthen the person she's talking to, and by breaking them down, that is kind of what she should be doing. You can't just tell the person what they want to hear. You have to tell them, this is what I'm hearing. Did I just get you on this?
She's probably represents the middle ground in this movie, I think, in some ways.
Yeah.
Like she is the actual person. She is society. She is who struggles with the overstimulation, and she's recognized that.
On TV she can be she can argue for something, but at the end of the day she's still a person, and behind closed doors.
Right.
Yeah. But again, though, at what point does she not become a real person anymore?
But Videodrome also finds her to be a threat because they kill her.
Yeah.
They say it outright that they killed her on Videodrome, right? So, but did she audition or not? Right. That I think is where you got to start to question her character in some way.
Yeah, because again, you go from being on TV, getting hit on by James Woods,
that's a slippery slope.
That's a slippery slope right there, right? But anyway, then she's like saying no to him,
right,
publicly.
Yeah.
He shows up at Cram,
yeah,
to ask if he can cram it, and she looks at him and is like, "Oh, I wish this guy would cram it," and like literally physically looks irritated. That was the first thing I thought. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
And then all of a sudden
then smash cut to she's looking through his records.
Yeah. And she puts on Videodrome and she's like, I'm into it.
Yeah, it's like, you want to try some shit?
That to me,
it's over at that point. She's not a real person.
She's not a real person anymore. I agree.
Yeah. Because then at that point she's showing also, if she's still trying to be the person who's the middle ground, right? The person who understands that she's overstimulated and can deal with it. Why would she wear something that would send gigantic, like those guys who do the airplane with the flags, like pointing at these cuts on her.
Right.
It's like,
yeah. So
here's another thing. Could she have already been part of a video that he had seen where those wounds had happened?
Yeah, I mean,
and it just was, that's part of his hallucination.
I think all of that's on the table. Yeah, for sure.
We figured you out, Cronenberg. Gross shit.
Is this the first Cronenberg we've done on the podcast?
For us, yes. I did do the Monster Mondays on Rabid.
You did Rabid, yeah.
But I didn't really talk too much about Cronenberg there.
This for me is top tier Cronenberg.
It's Thinker.
It's not my favorite. My favorite is Dead Ringers. Love that movie. But this is way up there. I do think you should watch Existenz, and maybe it's one we come back to at some point.
Well, I think the only natural sequel to this is UHF.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so look for that in the future.
Or it's almost like the prequel, maybe.
Maybe
they could have put Videodrome on UHF. Yeah.
Right. Imagine those Weird Al songs.
And this I think probably was maybe Scanners was his first real big hit. But
probably.
But this was a pretty big hit. It I think established Cronenberg as a as an artist.
Yeah, more than just the gross out
Yeah,
gorehound.
because this got a lot of critical thought behind it, and I think well deserved, especially for the time it came out. You know, you've got a lot of like the video nasty stuff going on in the UK.
Which the funny thing is that instantaneously this would have been barred.
Yep. Ironic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, ah!
Yeah, but that's Videodrome, like
Yeah.
like the UK Film Council and government, you know, that banned the video nasties. That's Videodrome. You know?
Mary Whitehead, you are an enemy.
So that's kind of where the real message, the end message of this movie is death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh. So it almost takes the side of mass media and the proliferation of information and video. It's like bring it, like it's resigned in a sense, but it's also like it's inevitable and we should embrace it.
I am curious to see where things will be another 35 years from now, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be old enough to not want to be alive anymore. But
You'll be 75.
yeah, I know. 39 was when I hit that finish line.
That's sad. I'm 39 right now.
Yeah, well,
I'm like 2 months from 40.
Anyway, it'd be interesting to see what information's like at that point, because right now, again, we're kind of in that Wild West where anybody can post whatever they want with no fact check, with no standard.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you think you can make other people buy in to and read and look at and whatever.
Well, it's influencing our elections. It's
certainly influencing how we deal with one another.
It's fracturing how any kind of public and civil discourse it's destroying it.
Right, because remember, we'll say 15 years ago, there were plenty of people that we knew that had all sorts of different opinions, and we still all kind of coexisted.
Right.
And hardly ever talked about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it was absolutely necessary to talk about at that moment.
Right.
Like I remember when I was working at the movie theater, there were a couple of the employees there who came out as gay, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't remember a single person saying anything out of the ordinary other than thank you for letting me know, or whatever, or whatever.
Good for you,
or thanks. Or there was no trumpeting of it. There was no, oh my God, I can't work here anymore. Get the fuck out of my face, homo, or whatever. Nothing like that.
Right.
Nothing like that. But I feel like today people are being coached or being trained to have a reaction of some sort, mm-hmm. whether it's positive or negative. And it's not really necessary to live life to have those types of extremes needing to come out of your mouth.
I also think that people live their extremes online because they're
behind the screen.
You're not in front of somebody. What do they call them? Like keyboard
warriors or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't
some
know.
bullshit.
I got called that once, and I was like, I laughed.
It's dumb.
I was like, whatever, dude. I was just saying you shouldn't piss on somebody who's happy about something.
But it's almost like the equivalent of talking behind someone's back.
Yeah,
right? But you can do it from behind a screen.
Right, but
directly at them.
I guess what I'm getting at is that and this is a little unfair to say this, to assume this, but knowing that we have a great melting pot of different types of people with different ideas and different whatevers, there was not a single person at that movie theater who turned in their 2 weeks because of religious difference.
Right. By
their lifestyle. It's like okay.
It's not a lifestyle, Jeff.
But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying. It's like it's just it's one of those things where it's like there was no need to fuss.
Yeah.
One way or another. But now there seems like if you don't fuss one way or another, you're some sort of weird non-human.
Yeah.
You're some sort of weird lizard person.
I think part of what the reason for that is that there's become these two types of social conditionings, right?
Oblivion and Videodrome.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's absolutely right. It's like, how are we going to coexist in a civilized society, which is the Oblivion camp, right?
Right.
And getting people, using television to just get them at least somewhat plugged back into society. It might not be normal society, but it's a version of reality that Oblivion believes is the future, right?
Right.
And then you've got the the other side, which is like, no, we can't have you coexist, and we don't believe in that ideology. We have we have to be contrarian to exactly those things. So what you have is
purification by contrarianism.
So again, a diatribe, but you've got you might put them in the camps of your social justice warriors and those who oppose them, and
alt-right or whatever.
Right? So and both of them are trying to shock the other ones into a different way of being. It's almost like if you believe this, you must be shamed, you must be doxxed, you must be exposed.
Which is funny because at the end of the day, those people may vote the way that those people want them to, or whatever.
It's this violent conflict.
It's black and white trying to wash out the grays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's like you have to be one or the other. And
that's kind of what I think is the thing I take away the most from this movie now.
Right.
Is that battling on the extremes, and then ignoring the Debbie Harry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because here's the person of reason who halfway
or using that person against each other. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this person in the middle, well, we'll take this offline. But there's I've got a perfect example of that just happened recently in the news. And
okay.
We'll talk about that offline. But anyway, no, I think this is a good, while it's told in a horror.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit sci-fi,
fucking awesome special effects by Red
right?
Baker.
Great special effects. But this is a kind of a story of society and that how it deals with what they think the future is. Mm-hmm. Depending on what side you're on, you have a different view of what the future is, right? Videodrome sees fear from the outside, the xenophobic idea of future. While the other guys see we're going to be living in literally a different perception of reality.
Right.
Everybody will be affected by this
we need
one
to
way
adapt,
or another.
We need to adapt. We need to move on. We need to embrace it.
Right.
Because fully.
Right. It's like saying I ran a stop sign and I hit another car, but as I'm running the stop sign, I refuse to believe that I'm going to hit the car I'm about to hit.
Right.
It's like you have to embrace the inevitability.
Right.
If you do X, Y will happen. And either you can embrace it or be an asshole.
Yeah. Right. And Debbie Harry's just trying to say,
I got to go with the flow.
But not just that, but also, maybe we could be doing things better. Like,
right.
We don't have
maybe we can prepare ourselves.
We don't have to
better.
Eradicate either thing. We just have to. Be cautious about where we're going.
Right.
Yeah, and make maybe
better decisions.
Yeah. Right.
Which also might mean
she's sort of the rational mind,
right?
Honestly.
Which might mean that both sides have to come to the table.
Which we see. We would hope that in our future that things would move in that direction linearly, but it doesn't. I mean, I feel like we're more fractured than ever. Those extremes have gone and drifted way farther apart in my lifetime, in our lifetime.
Oh, sure.
And it's scary. It's really terrifying to think about that.
Yeah, it really is, because it's like you have the people like me who try to rationally think about what's going on. Why is this group feeling this way, and why is this group saying this thing, and why is this? And hey guys, let's just hash it out. But then I'm neither. Then I can't fit into either, right?
But the other side of that argument too is is that really the case? Are we really drifting that far apart? Or is it are those just the people who
They're
yell
just
the
the
most?
loudest. Yeah, they're just the
They're just
also
the loudest.
they're probably 20%
Yeah.
of the entire society.
Right.
The rest of the 80%, when they roll their eyes at either of the other 10%, can't be ostracized either.
Right.
Because I do that a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this again, huh?
Right. Yeah.
But it's like, I can't be ostracized from either side, because then what are you doing? What are you trying to make everybody against you?
Yeah.
Or do you feel that special that you have to do that?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Man, this is, God damn it, watch Videodrome. This is like
This will get you thinking.
This is a really cool conversation that came up out of this movie. That is from 1983.
Mostly, though, I was just glad to see Deborah Harry topless.
God, she's just gorgeous, man. I want to try a few things with Debbie Harry.
Right. If she offered that up, it's like, whatever, lady.
Man. I saw her. I didn't really get to see her because I was so fucking far away. But she performed with Blondie at Riot Fest a few years back, and man, she was good. Like, they sounded good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's all like out there and just doing her thing, and she's got to be in her late 60s.
Yeah, because she was already in her.
She could be in 70s.
She could be in her 70s because she was already in her 30s when Blondie had hit the mainstream.
Yeah.
So
she brought it. She was awesome. They were great. I was very excited to check them off my list.
Your list.
Love me some Blondie.
Yep. Well, what else you got? You got anything else?
I think so.
We covered a lot.
Yeah, we've covered a ton. I think I got most of my notes at some point in time have been checked off
in one way or another.
In one way or another. Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah,
Love it.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's not one that you can easily understand. I think you have to have that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it better right now than when I was peeing during the credits.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think...
Isn't that great, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those types of movies. And we've got another one on the horizon that will be like that, too.
Oh, I have one more note.
Yeah.
This, I think, is interesting. It's sort of anecdotal. Cronenberg was working the Total Recall script before he made Videodrome.
Really?
And he basically was the first one to take a pass at that script, and it was eventually very heavily rewritten before Paul Verhoeven and Arnold Schwarzenegger became attached to it. But there are a lot of themes there in Total Recall that delve into this, questioning reality, perception, and all of that. Implanted memories. I mean,
right.
that's very topical and thematic to this movie as well. But one thing I found very interesting, and it makes perfect fucking sense, is all of the mutants in Total Recall, Paul Verhoeven's Total Recall, that all came from Cronenberg.
Oh, nice.
Like that wasn't in the source material, and I don't even think it was in the remake of Total Recall.
The three boob lady wasn't
she? Maybe.
I think so.
I can't
because
remember.
that was the big, is she in there or not?
I might have purged that from my mind.
I don't know. I don't see remakes
but
much.
all of the ideas of the mutants was all of David Cronenberg.
Nice.
Which I kind of love.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like Kuatu, all that shit was David Cronenberg.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thumbs up, Videodrome.
Yes.
Next week, we got another Force movie.
Oh, fuck yeah, we do.
With a really weird cast.
Oh, man.
We've got a little bit of O.J. Simpson.
Oh, man.
I wonder what we'll have to say about that. We've got Peter Fonda, who's awesome.
Oh, awesome.
We got Telly Savalas.
Yeah.
And Christopher Lee.
Oh, my God. That is a bizarre cast.
Yeah. It's a movie called Killer Force. It's also got another name, but that doesn't count. Killer Force.
Telly Savalas. That's hilarious. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. He's the main bad guy, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think it's got a little bit of Dangerous Game maybe in it. I don't know. We saw the trailer for it when we watched Force 5.
That would be fun. A little hunting of man.
I think, but we'll find out.
We'll see.
We will see.
We'll let you know next week.
Yeah, we'll let you know next week. Every Monday, I got Monster Mondays going on. I believe. Well, sir, this is is this an April episode? I believe it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think I'm going to talk about Hellboy, the new one too.
Oh.
So yeah, that's
that.
either That's either this week or next. I don't know. I did like Pet Cemetery, then the old Hellboy and the new Hellboy, and Return of Swamp Thing in April. So catch one of those. Next month is Godzilla month.
Nice.
Because Big G's coming back.
Yep.
We gotta celebrate that. And I do.
You do.
I do. Not only
Jeff
him,
dresses up in his Godzilla costume, and he sleeps in it like pajamas. He walks around his apartment, just shuffles around.
Yep.
In
and
his
knocking stuff over.
in his big Godzilla costume.
Yep. I do. No, it's not just him though. I got to also celebrate Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Rodan. So all of those guys are involved in Godzilla month. So boom.
All right.
So anyway, where can people find out more about us?
Oh my gosh, you can find
this is for the future AI guys.
Yeah, you can find us on Civic TV, channel 83, cable 12. You can
We're
find
gonna
us
make
on
you do funky butt stuff
your
girlfriend.
You can find us on CRAM or CRAM as we like to refer to it. Yeah, you can find us on Videodrome. And you can find us at the Brian Oblivion Soup Kitchen Center, whatever the hell that was called.
Yeah, it was like a heart with like a crown of thorns around it.
Kind of had like a Catholic thing going on.
Yeah, also you can also reach into James Wood's stomach vagina and pull out audio cassettes of our episodes.
The spectacular optical spring glassware or spring glasses trade show.
Oh, I'm the
there.
I'm the third guy with the mustache and the tights.
Yeah,
dancing in that show.
Yes,
so you can see me there.
You can see us at the trade show. Yeah, you can find us in Pittsburgh,
100 and Ontario.
Yes,
at
the Toronto Harbor.
At the
definitely
the shithole harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can.
I also have grown a third arm out of my head.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm a Cronenberg now.
Yeah, so those are all the places you can find us.
All right. So until next week, my name is Jeff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.